Then I joined VK in 2019. And then I saw you. You know what I liked about the way you handle your social media page is the fact that when you post really big and very detailed what you want to say with examples and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the best thing that I like. What I like about it, your post is when people reply to your post and you reply them back.
Mm-hmm.
You always do that, irrespective of no matter how many replies you have. You always reply them back. How do you keep that energy and enthusiasm over and over again? Like you have been doing this for like years. How do you do this? How do you get this energy?
It's tough. You can probably see the bags under my eyes from not sleeping because of answering so many people. Yeah, you're right. I mean, first of all, I think that the problem is that when we are on social media, we kind of feel as if we're in the shadow sometimes. There's people that you like on certain blogs or YouTube videos, whatever, and you write comments, but you don't feel a connection. And I kind of understood that I would rather not have hundreds of thousands of followers, maybe just a few, but make them feel valued. Because first of all, it's going to boost their confidence. It's going to make them feel part of a real community, not just like, oh, be a part of our community, I'll help you, but I really will. So even if it's just a thank you for replying or a smiley face, it's something to say, I have seen your message. And as a result, it's done something kind of quite interesting because the courses that I have a speaking club online. I have, say, Cambridge exam courses. There's a really strong family community on my courses. There's never a student which is problematic. So on my social media, I try to create something where people like have a safe space where they can express their views if they're not like political or like, rude or offensive. And people will be treated justly so. And it creates a really good learning environment. And that's basically what has brought students to me, because I understand they're learning in an environment where, like, they're not going to be judged. It's about supporting each other with their English, and they progress really quickly that way. And it really, really works. As for the energy, I don't know where it comes from. I mean, there have been moments when I could even say over the last few months, it's been really hard to think of new posts because, the thing is, people like doom and gloom, people like selfies. I'm posting stuff about vocab and grammar or common mistakes. And sometimes like a post that can take me a couple of hours to put together because I do try to do it in a certain way to make it memorable. It gets less attention than a picture of a dog, I don't know, jumping through a hoop or something. And you kind of, is it worth it? Sometimes it's really hard, but I keep trying. I keep going at it, thinking of new ideas and thinking of new approaches. And the most important thing is, again, I'm trying to sell my services as a teacher to say, well, I can explain grammar to you quite easily. I can explain vocab in a way that's memorable and actually vocab which is useful. Because one of the problems of social media, I'll mention this very quickly if you're interested, especially on Instagram, I call it the destruction of the English language by Instagram or social media. Because very often there are lots of people who, again, anyone's entitled to make their own videos. But very often, I would say about 7 out of 10 times on Instagram, I look at an idiom or some kind of phrasal verb and I see the examples given and it's just not right. They're just wrong. And like in the comment section below on Instagram, like let's take an expression, it's not my cup of tea. Okay, which everyone likes to learn. Now, when you say it's not my cup of tea, you can't use that with everything. You can only use it's not my cup of tea when you're talking about particular activities as a polite way of negation. Even you might find in some online dictionary the affirmative version of this, but no one ever uses that. And so people will leave comments below to say, like, eating cheesecake is my cup of tea. It's like, no, we don't use it like that. And then the author would go, well done, great job. It's like, no, you're teaching people like to use it wrong. It's not. Sorry, use it right. It's wrong. And so I try to make sure that when I post material on my social media, that it's something which is relevant, is native, is natural. So teachers, because most of my audience are teachers, that's the thing.
Correct.
Because the language is high level. And so it's about me providing people in Russia and around the world to say, right, I'm going to help you in your journey on perfecting your English. I'm going to tell you what is right, what is used, because it's very difficult to find it online. Dictionaries are not always reliable. So I'm going to help you. Like you need this and you can forget that. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the purpose of it.
So during a journey in Russia, like 16 years is a long time. You know, like when you came here, I'm sure that you were like a normal teacher, right? Like a
Yeah. I
regular
had
teacher,
$200.
and you kind of climbed the ladder up to the top, man. Seriously, I really appreciate that. But did you have any time? This is a bit kind of, did you have a time where you thought that, oh my gosh, this is not my cup of tea?
Yeah, many times.
Really? And how did you
Many,
handle
many
that?
times.
How did you handle that?
Yeah, yeah. Like we talk about it being like the burnout syndrome.
Hmm.
Sometimes, when you're teaching the same thing again and again,
Right.
you get tired of it. You run out of ideas.
Yeah.
Your imagination dries up. Yeah, sometimes I got to the point of like I need to do something different. Is like I can't make money from this because when I was working for a school, like I can't imagine doing this for the rest of my life. It's depressing because you want to be able to buy a house and
Correct. Correct.
to live a life. And I say EFL doesn't pay well. It was paying in Russia very well up to about 2012, and then it didn't,
Mm.
not as much. Because of the dollar and the ruble. Because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
those days it was like 30 rubles to the dollar. Now it's like 76 or something. So I basically just had a rest. That was the most important thing. I said, right, have a rest. Go on holiday for a
Mm.
couple of years.
Mm.
Have a rest and think about it. The other thing was to actually force myself to actually change something. So if I was teaching a lot of general English and like it's the same thing, go back to teaching kids. Like have a go at it.
Mm.
Do something different. Just challenge yourself. Then it was maybe like do something with exams or like what, try an experiment, try something a bit different. Do
Hmm.
it in a different order. Like restructure the way you teach it.
Hmm.
Approach it from a different angle and see what happens. That was the first thing. The main thing which helped me, I would say, was surprisingly nothing to do with teacher qualifications or with
Okay.
even teaching myself English. It was actually a lot of teaching psychology which helped.
How do you
Because
connect to that? I want to understand that. How do you connect to that? Like
yes,
psychology and teaching
psychology and
English.
teaching. So basically, one of our areas is that people say you need to have a rapport with your students. You need to understand your students. Well, it's easy to
Mm.
say that, but to truly understand is quite difficult, and that's why things like emotional intelligence is a very important factor within
Hmm.
the classroom. So I started reading up on teaching psychology because I thought, well, I need to become a better teacher.
Correct.
And what I kind of understood, and I worked on myself a lot, so it was honestly, I suppose, a kind of maturity process. Because in the
Hmm.
olden days, I was taking teaching quite seriously,
Hmm.
but not as much as I do now. And I realized I kind of had to be more responsible and grow up and maybe have a better connection with my students. And when I started studying emotional intelligence and like developmental psychology, it kind of answered a lot of questions in the sense that I realized my teaching is not just about English anymore. It really
Mm.
is about changing the lives of my students,
True.
to give them a better chance than I ever had.
I agree with you.
Because even though people think in Russia, oh, you're from England, from a good background, not always, not
No.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I had several issues in my younger days, and you want your students to avoid that. You want to give them a head start and a better
Correct.
life than what we had. And so I saw teaching as a way to like become a better person through myself by making my students into the best people they could be. And the secondary part of that was teaching them fantastic English.
Correct.
And so as a result of that, I realized that this desire to help people became
Right.
number one.
Mm.
And I did that through teaching English and
Correct.
linguistics and things like
And the
that.
money
And
and the money become the byproduct of it.
say again?
The money become the byproduct of it, right?
The
Because
money
what if?
becomes a byproduct, of
Yeah.
course. The money becomes a byproduct because, again, I mean, the money now is not bad. I work on my own, have my own school,
Hmm.
and I think that when you become, emotionally intelligent and you realize you're doing it for the right reasons to help people, you become motivated.
Mm.
Then you become more business oriented. You start to venture further, take more risks, and you can make more money. And actually, even if you're teaching privately, ask for more. That's the
Correct.
beauty. And so that I would say that's the moment that kind of really changed me, and it made me grow up a lot. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It made me really grow up.
Yeah. Why I ask you this question is because I've seen many teachers, especially in Russia, that they go to the same school, they teach the same student, they teach the same books, and at
Mhm.
certain point of time, after like couple of years or like 5, 6 years, they get like my life has become very monotonous, and you can see that those things in their faces. They become a little dull. These are real facts, man. I mean, when you're starting up, then you're like very enthusiastic. Like you want to go, I want to dance with the kids and things like that. But after a certain while, and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the same things again, right? Like,
Hmm.
but this is different from the computer engineering or some different lines,
Yeah.
because you're always like kind of upgrading yourself, doing all different things. You're having meetings and things like that. So I think your whatever you said probably is going to help a lot of teachers who are gonna watch this video and probably get
I hope
motivated.
so. I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I really think that the key point is to work on yourself. There's always going to be teachers, like you were just saying about what you personally experienced.
Hmm.
There's going to be teachers who are just not ambitious. In every job you get such people, they just want to get by doing the bare minimum, and they're comfortable doing that. There are people like me who, I have dreams of having a little country house, with a nice garden near a river. I really want that. And to do
Hmm.
that, I need to save some pennies. So I can't do that by working for a language school that doesn't pay much. So I have to become good with myself. I have to become a better version of myself. I have to work on myself. And then I have to become a better teacher towards my students.
Hmm.
And again, take risks. That's the thing.
Yeah, risk.
I wouldn't be able to get there just by getting by. That's the
Correct.
thing.
Correct. Because of this monotony, I don't like. I'm not a full-time teacher, by the way. I'm like more of like admin and kind of, I do the coursing things and stuff like that. I was actually
Mhm.
working for Birmingham City University
Oh,
in
wow.
yeah in Mumbai branch, not the London. I mean the Birmingham branch, but the Mumbai branch and Nottingham Trent. So I was like the
Hmm.
coordinator and doing like checking out the courses and if the courses are being taught correctly and stuff like that. Then later I got into teaching. And after getting into teaching, I realized that, okay, what I was doing was better than teaching. I don't want to demotivate anyone. It's just that, for me, it's like it gets like too monotonous at a certain point. Even though I love teaching, like different curriculums and things like that to impart my knowledge, what I have.
Yeah, there's one. I do understand you. It is one of those jobs that, like, the course books are always the same.
Yeah, yeah,
If you're going to have this particular course book, like English file, which I don't like, by the way,
correct.
you're going to teach it again and again.
Hmm.
You always make some changes because students are different, but it's still essentially the same thing. Um, it is difficult. I understand you completely. It did my head in for some
Correct,
time
correct.
until I realized I actually have to take a risk and go further. I have to work for myself.
Yeah.
So at least I'm still teaching, but I've got the business side to take care of,
Hmm.
and that adds the challenge to a large extent.
Yeah, yeah. I want to come back to not come back. I want to go to a very important topic, which is known as native speakerism. You see, like I see this existing everywhere, and not many people know about this. And this is like a horrible thing that is happening around the world. I feel, not
Yeah,
just for the teachers as well who are looking for jobs in different countries,
yeah,
also with the students, man. I was in Thailand,
yeah.
like last year, not last year, like a couple of years back. I met some teachers who were like, they're just from America. They just have the passport. They have nothing. Trust me, and they're teaching in schools. I'm not kidding. This is a real
I can
fact.
believe it. I've seen it too.
Yeah, that's something like crazy thing is happening around the world. And why is that? Why is that? What's your opinion about native speakerism?
Oh, I've got huge opinions on this. Like huge opinion. Even though I'm a native speaker
Yeah, I
myself,
know.
I don't like. Yeah, I don't like the calling myself a native. Well, I'm a native speaker, but I like to see myself as a teacher.
Right.
Um, okay, first of all, there's a few things I can mention.
Yeah,
Like
please.
when you talk about this kind of unfairness, I get it totally. It's like when native speakers do a CELTA, like a 4-week, 1 month intensive course to become a
Mm-hmm.
teacher.
Mm-hmm.
For the native speaker, the CELTA is like one of those one-day trainings you get in an office to
Yeah,
become a door-to-door salesman.
true.
It's like in teaching a very basic qualification. In Russia, it's seen as something very prestigious because, I get to do the communicative approach.
Yeah.
And it costs a lot of money and it's going to make me into a well-rounded teacher. And I find it very sad that in Russia, it's seen as such prestige, but among
Mm-hmm.
native speakers, it's the lowest of the low. That's
True.
the thing.
True.
Um,
Completely agree with you. Because when I
yeah,
did my CELTA, I told some of my British friends that and see I have done CELTA. They said, okay, everybody does that. What's the new deal in
yeah,
that? But when I told my Russian teacher, I did the CELTA, it's like, CELTA, wow, Britain, great job, man.
yeah.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, tell me,
It
please go
is.
ahead.
There's something very unfair about it. Yeah. The thing with native speakers is like, well, first of all, it's the market. That's the thing. The
Mm-hmm.
market says that, like, well, native speakers possess natural English and that's going to be the best form of English.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, it's hard to argue with the market because, well, it's what a lot of people want. However, uh, the funny thing is, I don't want to ever employ native speakers because I don't trust them. Not all.
What's that?
Because like you said, a lot of them just aren't qualified. They're very self-entitled. They believe they should get a high salary for doing the bare minimum.
Exactly. Yeah, true.
And I don't like that. I really don't like that. And for me, I try to tell a lot of teachers. Now, even I'm opening schools here in this city where I am in Russia, Kazan. I'm not hiring any natives. And it's not because I can't afford them. It's because Russian teachers are better. They work harder. They really try to connect a lot more with their students. Again, not all, but most. I worked in a school with many native speakers. Yes, there were some good ones. But I would say 80% just did the bare minimum to get by. They got their grammar from the back of English file. I was the kind of teacher, without trying to sound arrogant, I would be sitting, in a room reading my grammar lab. I need to know modal verbs inside out. I needed to know, and most teachers just didn't care. And that was my experience, seeing that face to face. A lot of native speakers like to be entertainers rather than teachers. So that's why they attract a lot of students, because in Russia, teachers tend to put on a face where they need to be quite strict, they need to be authoritative, because I'm a teacher, that's the traditional role. Where native speakers are more kind of on the level, well, I'm going to entertain you. So it happens very often that teachers, like native speakers, play all of these games. They're very knowledgeable about games. And the students get to the end of that course and think, I've learned nothing. I've had fun, but I've learned nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I've just spent God knows how much money on nothing. And I've seen that happen many times. And I was called to come and rescue some of these classes because the students complained about their teachers. So Paul, take over and teach them 5 months worth of English in a month. I'll try my best then. So yeah, native speakers carry the language, but it does not in any way mean that they're good teachers at all. And people need to understand that. And also, again, yes, they have natural English, but if they can't teach it, then it's pretty much worthless.
Yeah. Teaching is different and speaking is different, yeah.
It's different. It is. Because again, like a native speaker can have a chat with their students, but well, you're paying to learn. You're not going to learn so much from just having a chat. You've got to have a very structured course, and you've got to be able to teach it. That's the thing, and get students to remember it and use it actively. And so the native speakerism, I think, is really daft, in my opinion. People should focus on a good teacher, a really, really, really good teacher. But unfortunately, in many countries around the world, schools see it as being prestigious to have someone from Canada or Britain or America. And then you think, well, as Russians or Indians, how are you supposed to compete against that? To do that, it comes down to good marketing.
Yeah. That's correct. I completely agree with you. I've seen some Russian teachers were really great, and they really love English, and they really give their entire energy in learning English and teaching it.
Absolutely.
See, that's what I really appreciate about them. One thing, what I don't like about Russian teachers, correct me if I'm wrong, they're a little too hard on grammar. They have this, they have this, never-ending obsession with the grammar, and I feel that they should go a little more with vocabularies than the grammar. Why I said I don't like this, because I see students who rather not talk in English than to speak wrong grammar.
Yeah.
That's bad. When I was in in Gulf countries, in Dubai and Oman, that people don't care. They don't have no grammar at all. It's like I breathe them, you ball. That's it. But at least they're communicating. You see, they're not shy to talk. I always told my students, if you're shy to talk, you'll never learn a language, irrespective of English or German or whatever. Do you think that they're a little emphasizing a little too much on grammar?
It's true, especially in the state schools, especially. In EFL, they're kind of moving away from it. That's why this whole lexical approach thing has really taken off in Russia. I don't agree with all of it, but I do with most of it. The shift towards the communicative approach is a big thing in Russia now. It's just the kind of low-level language schools or state schools where grammar is a big thing. That's why EFL is huge in this country, because they realize, well, we're doing so many years of English at school, but we can't speak a word. So the parents pay money to go to a language school. You are absolutely right. It is changing. there was this focus heavily on grammar in the Soviet Union. It's kind of carried over to a large extent. The other reason why Russians don't speak is not just because of the grammar approach, but because they're so scared of making mistakes.
Correct.
They're really scared of making mistakes.
Yeah. It makes them look like they're like introvert, and then not just opening up to you. But if you know few vocabularies, you can at least go and try.
Exactly.
Just go and try.
You're absolutely right. You just got to be like extroverted and just play with what you've got and just have fun. And I always tell students, like, they say being an advanced speaker of English doesn't mean you're more likable.
Yeah.
You can even be an elementary student, but really likable and communicative. And I want to spend time with someone whose English is really low level, but they're just fun to be with. Because, personality is your main thing. Your language and your English will support it to some extent. That's the sort of point I try to give across. So when I get students into my courses, like, well, okay, let's first of all get rid of the shyness. Let's get rid of this fear of making mistakes. Just speak. And I'll correct you, and then you'll correct yourselves automatically over time. Most of the mistakes are not because I don't know stuff. It's just because it's a bit rusty or it's a slip or something like that. Very, very often. Especially at high levels.
Also,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, also this happens with the accent. Also, they have this, kind of weakness towards the British accent. Because I was going through. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like I was going through one of the videos, and then one of the videos, like if you see one of the comments there, one guy or girl, I don't remember. He was saying that that I love Paul's accent. This is the best accent in the world. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a bad accent, a good accent, okay? But try to see the fundamental, the basic, what you want to say first, then go for the accent. I'm not saying
I completely agree. Yeah, I agree with you.
That shouldn't be a kind of hinder. It's kind of hinder their progress in the language, right? Like if you're like particularly flowing a accent.
I agree with you completely. I think the accent should be secondary. Yeah. I think as long as you are articulate and you are what you say makes sense. So you focus on your vocab, your grammar, producing sounds. That's the most important thing. Yeah. And you're not going to require a 100% British or American accent unless you really live there. But even living there doesn't guarantee it. It's very, very complex. Some people can, but not many.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, but there's two sides to this. On one hand, I tell students, don't get so caught up in trying to sound like a native speaker. Because on one hand, you sound extremely genuine with your own accent. However, I do also understand that when you are confused for a native speaker, it's the best compliment ever. Because it means that everything has fallen into place. Your grammar, your vocab. When I was sometimes confused for a German, I went dancing through the center of Frankfurt. It's like, oh, I thought I was German. All this practice has paid off. But people shouldn't be caught up if they don't quite achieve that, because having so many various accents around the world is wonderful. And when people say, I want to get a British accent or an American accent, it's like, do people understand how complex the English-speaking world is? I don't think they do, because even in England, if you travel 1 hour down the road, the accent's different.
Yeah,
it's incredibly different.
And you have so many accents in London, right? You have like Pakistani accent, you have like European accent, you have like French accent, and of course the British, the Indian accent.
Yeah, there's so many. That's the thing.
And people don't really discriminate to you because of your accent, right? They don't understand this, And what I feel is that when you're a native speaker, suppose you're French, okay, you're French, and like you're talking English, and you have a tinge of French accent in your English, that is more sexier. That's my opinion. That's what I feel.
I agree. It's nice because the person sounds genuine. They sound like an individual. They're like, it's their own accent. They're not like just a part of the crowd. That they sound like, I don't know how to kind of explain it. Just something special. And it does sound sexy. It can sound really, really nice, even if it's a strong Russian accent.
Correctly.
It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
It's
because I'm not judging people based on their accents. I'm not judging people at all. And I think that it comes down. I mean, again, I understand why people want to, because when you learn a language, the idea of learning a language is to get close to that native, natural lingo as close as you can. You want to get to it as close as you can. That's why we learn languages.
Correct.
But that's also a very dangerous attitude to have, because to get to kind of native level, depending which native level you're going for, because again, it's very complex. what area are you aiming
Yeah,
at?
yeah.
If you're talking about everyday slang, everyday street English, that's very difficult to achieve unless
Correct.
you live there. Because
Correct.
what you find online is not going to be readily available. Because even on YouTube videos, even in TV shows, it's all scripted, you know, for international audiences. And so what you often see on TV to what you hear on the average street can be a tad different sometimes.
Correct.
However, a very big however, going back to native speakerism is where students can be better than native speakers, and they can be. There is an area where students can be much better than native speakers. Now, as I said, I teach a lot of CPE students. I teach many people, they go and start their own communities of English. And what my CPE students can write in English using complex English, complex ideas, that's something native speakers often can't do. So even though they are native speakers, they don't have the capacity, the brain capacity to think that deeply. They might not know the word juxtaposition, or they might not know words like alleviate and things in the right collocations. But our students have learned so intensely that they can put together such complex essays. And when they do the speaking, they're able to do a monologue about some complex abstract theme that native speakers can't do. So can learners be better than native speakers? Yes, they can.
Yes, correct.
Definitely at higher levels, definitely at much more academic high levels they can, without a doubt.
It's very positive, but I really appreciate that.